Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the on the live session with tax body on defective notice under section 139.9. This is Sairam Charan Teja, who is working as a team lead with tax body from the past 2.5 years, where we file the income tax returns for the individuals and handle the notice cases on various sections and do helping in the tax planning as well. So let's focus on our main subject. It's a defective notice under section 139. The understanding the provision on the reasons why we are being issued with the notice under the defective one and the treatment of the treatment on how to deal with the defective notices. Okay, so let's get into it. First of all, the introduction, which is a definition or understanding the basics of the defective notice. A defective notice under Section 139 of Indian Income Tax Act 1961 refers to a notice issued by the Income Tax Department to the taxpayer who filed the ITR. Okay, and the same notice will be issued if there are any errors, discrepancies, or omissions in the tax return filed by the taxpayer. Okay, and the primary purpose of issuing such notices is to rectify the inaccuracies and ensure the taxpayer return is in compliance with the tax laws. Okay, so the main thing is it is a notice issued to the person who has filed their ITR with the errors, discrepancies, or omissions. Okay, it is not any outstanding demand if you are familiar with other demands as well. Okay, so it is not any such other notice. Okay, if they find any error in your writer along with the various reasons and all, then it is a chance. Okay, not exactly a notice, a chance to for you to rectify the notice, to rectify that defect. Okay, in that case, the defective notice will be issued to you under section 139 of Indian Income Tax Act 1961. Okay, to the taxpayer from the income tax department. So this is a brief regarding the defective notice. And what will be the reasons, the errors and omissions, what are the errors and omissions and all will include. Okay, it is a discrepancies in data. Okay, this is a main on the common reason where income tax department issues a defective notice to the taxpayers is errors in income calculation, deductions, and disclosure of the assets. Okay, uh, and mathematical errors in calculation while the tax return can lead to issuance of defective notice, and incomplete information if the taxpayer fails to provide complete and accurate information in the tax return. The income tax department may issue the defective notice to the missing details and mismatch in income. Discrepancies in the income tax reported by the taxpayer, the information available within the department through sources like deducted source on 26 years or annual information statement or tax information statement can trigger the defective notice. Non-disclosure of bank accounts. The income tax department has been vigilant in tracking the undisclosed bank accounts. Failure to disclose all the bank accounts can lead to insurance uh, issuance of the defective notice. A tax audit report in cases of where taxpayer is subject to the tax audit, discrepancies between the tax audit report and the tax return may result in the issuance of defective notice. Okay, so these are the main reasons where income tax department will be keep on tracking in the or observing in the income tax return filed by the taxpayer or simply assessees. Okay, so in this one, the discrepancies in data is including the well, there is any error in calculating the um, income that is disclosed in the ITR. Okay, and any deduction that is claimed extra or low, or depending upon vice and versa, it will be there. And mathematical errors means while we are entering the data, the numbers may mismatch along with the data with the income tax department, and while we are entering the same data, in that cases when there is any mismatch, in that cases also income tax department will issue that notice. Okay. And incomplete information, so we are all aware that we have form 26 years and annual information statement and the tax information statement issued available in the income tax portal, right? So if we have disclosed or under disclosed that income, or have not totally disclosed that income which is appearing over there, then in that cases also income tax department will ask you to show that income in your ITR. Okay. Or, and non-disclosure of the bank account. So nowadays the people will not be including all the bank account. There, suppose if there is any salary person, then he will show only salary account. But for other account that he is being maintained by them, they will not include those accounts. Okay, it is also important to add those accounts to the ITR. And tax audit report. So when filing the tax audit report, we fill all the forms and all. And then while filing the ITR, if there is any data mismatch between the tax audit report and the income tax return that we filed, in that cases also the income tax department will issue the defective notice to the taxpayer. Okay. So simply understanding again, okay, a defective notice, there is no need to be worried. Okay, it is just an opportunity that is given by the IT department to issue the to rectify the defects and all that is pertaining in the income tax return. Okay, so these are the reasons, main of the reasons that is which causes you to get the defective notice. Okay, now we'll understand the treatment for defective notice. Okay, where how we can uh, prevent by receiving the defective notice, or what we have to do after receiving the defective notice. So when the taxpayer receives a defective notice, it is crucial to acknowledge its receipt promptly. Ignoring such notices can lead to legal consequences. Okay, so this is the part where most people go wrong. Okay. uh, they will income tax department, as soon as they as soon as they recognize any defect in your ITR, then they will inform you over the mail. Okay, but most of the people will ignore that mail, and they don't understand it, and so they'll just leave it, promoting them not for the legal consequences. Further, we'll discuss it about in the next part also. On understanding the defects, the taxpayer should carefully review the defective notice to identify the specific defects or issues pointed out by the income tax department. Okay, so after receiving the notice, the taxpayer or the person who has received the notice should be go through it. Okay, they have to go through it. Why that the department has issued the defective notice to them, and they should understand it. And rectification: once the defects are identified, the taxpayer must take appropriate steps to rectify them. This involves submitting the corrected JSON file, XML, filing revised returns, clarification, or additional information is required. Okay, so once the taxpayer has gone through all the points which is issued by the income tax department to them, then they have to rectify the such defects, or if there is anything information to be added to the ITR, they have to add it, and they should take the appropriate action. Okay, whether it is filing the 139 filing under section 139 rectification return, or they have to file the revised return if it is within that time. Okay. And timely response: it is essential to respond to the notice within the stipulated time frame mentioned in the notice itself. Failure to respond within the specified time can result in the penalties or further legal action. So this is the main important. Okay, so as soon as we understand that there is a defective is came, and we are taking the and within the time that is given by the income tax department, we have to respond to the notice. Okay, we have to submit a respond, or we have to submit or revise the income tax return. So we have to do it within the timely response one. Okay. And seeking the professional help. So in complex cases, or when cases defects are not easily rectifiable, seeking professional advice from a tax consultant or chartered accountant is advisable. So this is also another important part where most of the people will not, they will receive the demand, but they don't understand it, so they will leave it. Okay. It is not a suggestible one. So as soon as they receive the demand, if they are failed to identify the mistakes or they don't understand how to proceed on further, then it is better, always better to consult a tax expert or a chartered accountant who can do these works. Okay, where we tax body doing it efficiently with a lot of experienced tax persons. And how to respond to the 139, I mean notice to the 139. So after you receive income tax department notice from the IT department under section 139.9, and where you have identified and rectified the everything, then we'll see how to respond to the notice. Okay, character discrepancies. If the notice highlights genuine errors or omissions, the taxpayer can file a revised return within the correct information. This is applicable to the time limit for filing a revised return for the assessment year has not been lapsed. Okay, so under this one, if there is any additional information is to be added, and if we want to change the ITR, then we have to go for the revised ITR within the time. Okay, now as of now, we can after the 31st of December, we cannot file any go for any revised ITR. Okay, if there is any mistakes and all, we have to go for the updated return. So in that cases, it will this will not come. Okay, so it is always mandatory to watch out for the time limit and to do the necessary to make the necessary action and file a return under section 139. If the time limit for the return has been passed, the taxpayer can file the return under section 139.9 with the accurate details. Okay, uh, even though the under section 139.5 the time limit has been lapsed, if there is any possible and there is only the some mistake has to be corrected, then we can file the return under section 139.9 without any time limit. Okay, if you receive a demand and so if you receive a notice and you have rectified all the defects that is mentioned by the IT department, then you can file the rectification under section 139.9 with the proper details without any time limit. Okay, and submit response online. The taxpayer believes that the discrepancies mentioned in the IT department are incorrect, and they can submit a response online through their income tax portal account, and clarification will be provided to address the reasons mentioned in the notice. So suppose if the income tax department is wrong and you have mentioned everything properly, then simply you can give the response in your IT in income tax portal by giving by providing the necessary documents and necessary explanation furtherly. Okay, and time limit for responding the submission of defective notice. If your return is found defective, you will get to 15 days of time from the date of receiving of notice, or as at the time being specified to notice to rectify the defect in the return filed by you. Okay, so generally it will be within the 15 days from the receiving the defective notice. You have to file your response or you have to file your ITR properly after rectifying all the defects in your ITR or providing additional information to the IT department. Okay, generally it will be the 15 days, or else if there is any, if you have any chance to file the revised return and you have to tell the time, then you can file the revised return also. There will be no issue, but it is mostly 15 days, and it's better to take necessary action within that 15 days of time to avoid any legal consequences and all. And let's see how to respond to the defective notice in the income tax portal. Okay, so after you log in into the income tax portal, so this is how your dashboard will look like. In the frame main dashboard, find the pending actions as marked over here, and under the pending action go to the e proceedings one. Okay, where we have highlighted this, and there for your under section under the e proceeding, you can find the for your action column, where you have if any person has received any defective notice one, there all the details will be disclosed over here, and go to the view notices one, and in that view notices one you can submit the response. You can click on submit the response, and you can go for the agreeing for the notice defect and all, and disagreeing, as we have already earlier explained. If you are the defects are correct with IT department and you are agreeing for the defects, and you have rectified the defect in your ITR, then you have to click on agree and proceed, submit the ITR type and attach the JSON file, and you can submit. Or suppose if you are disagreeing with the IT department, that there are no discrepancies on the file ITR filed with you, then you can disagree and provide the necessary details to you, and you can submit that response. Okay, so this is how we follow in the normal live one. Okay, so these are all the theoretical basis one. So this is a live one where you have to submit the response on yourself or the income tax portal. Okay, and common errors that makes a return defective. So these are the mainly 8 reasons where you will receive the income tax. Where the income tax department will give you a defective notice. Credit for TDS has been claimed, but the corresponding receipts or income has not been offered for the taxation or offered under the different heads of income. So we know that under the Form 26 years, so we will come to know on which income the TTS has been directed. Okay, but if we are failed to show the same income under the proper head, then it will leave us to receive the defect notice. Even though you have included the such income to your income tax return, then you will receive a defect notice. Okay, the gross is shown in the Form 26 as on which TDS for on credit for TDS has been claimed or higher than the total receipts shown under all heads of income in the return of income. So this is simply is nothing but as we know, income on TDS will be shown in the Form 26 years, and in your writer, if such income is showing less than such amount, then you will receive a defect notice. For example, your salary is disclosing 6 lakhs in the Form 26 years, but if you have shown only 5 lakh 90,000 or 5 lakh 95,000 under various reasons, then you will receive such notice. Okay, and gross total income and all heads of income are entered as nil, but the tax liability has been computed and paid. So this will happen when you are having the your writer prepared within the Excel sheet or something. Okay, so at that time your gross total income by mistakenly has been shown as zero or nil, and the tax computation will be over there. So at that time the software or income tax department will think that there is no income but the tax has been paid. So then the mismatch between the writer filed and the correction will be there. So that we have to see. And the taxpayer having income under the head profit and gains of business or profession but has not filed the balance sheet and profit and loss account. Okay, so this is the main criteria where most of the person who is filing is having the business or profession or filing the ITR 3 or 4 will receive the defective notice. Okay, so even though some people while adding the business income or professional income while they are for filling up their ITR under section 44 AD or 44 ADA, there's no books of accounts to be maintained, right? So they'll just enter the income details in the profit and loss one. On the balance sheet under the no books case, they won't fill anything, or they will fill only 000. So at that time, you will receive a defective notice since we have filled the profit and loss account but not the balance sheet. Okay, and some in some other cases also the people will go for the presumptive basis one, and they will fill the income details and they'll put the balance sheet. Okay, under the we have to file the no books case, but they'll go for the books of case account. There also discrepancy will happen. Okay, it will not match with the data. So in that cases also they will receive a defective notice. So that has to be rectified. As I say, not shown sale of securities in ITR, but in TS it is present. So this is from the past 2 years. This is a main thing that is coming. Okay, the people who are having the share market transactions, there is features and option mutual funds along equity shares. They will not include those data into your ITR. Okay, means are under reporting the sales of securities in their ITR. So in these cases, they will receive a defective notice since it is not matching with your ITR that you have been filed and the data that is as is showing in the AS or TAS, and futures and option turnover not taken correctly. So some people will not. There is a lot of calculation for the futures and option turnover. So when they take it improperly, then the data will mismatch and you will receive a defective notice. That's of income under the TDS has been chosen incorrectly. Suppose if there is any this case will come where you show your income and you don't show it under the proper way. Okay, like suppose if there is any FD interest is there, if you add it in not in income from other sources but under some other sections, then this will come even though you have added that income to your ITR. Interhead adjustment are not done correctly. Okay, so this one will come where you are failed to adjust your losses from one source of income to the other source of losses. Okay, So in that cases, if it is not matching, if you have not done properly or manually, then this defect will come to you or to rectify the defect. Okay, so mainly these are the areas where the income tax department will keep on tracking and identifies this transactions where the most of the people will receive a defective notice. Okay, under the conclusion, a defective notice under Section 139 of Indian Income Tax 1961 is a mechanism employed by the Income Tax Department to ensure tax compliance and rectify the inaccuracies in the taxpayer returns. Taxpayers should treat the notices seriously action process and ensure the taxpayers fulfill their obligation under the law. So, what we have learned in this one is simply the defective under Section 139 will induce the income tax department to the taxpayers to file their ITR properly, or if there is any defects or discrepancies or errors, so it is a chance opportunity given by the income tax department to the taxpayer to rectify their defects. Okay, there is no need to be worry or panic when you receive these kind of notices. You can always seek a professional help to rectify those defects or to work on it. But the main thing is always we have to take it seriously and take an appropriate action. Okay, you should not ignore what on whatever the communication that is made by the income tax department. Okay, so whenever you notice any communication from the income tax department, you have to identify it and you have to take an appropriate action, so that it will help the taxpayers and income tax department also to streamline the whole taxation process properly. Okay, where the taxpayer also will not face any obligations under the law. That's it, guys. So this is a brief working on the provision of 139.9 defective notice by